I thought I was alone in my room, but someone was watching me every single night. I thought I knew him until I found the drawer with everything about me inside. He said he respected my space, but he had a copy of my key the entire time. I started that job feeling excited but also nervous. It was my first real office role after college, a junior analyst position at a downtown finance firm. The hours were long, the pace was brutal, but I didn't mind. I just wanted to prove myself. The only thing that made me hesitate was the night shifts. Some weeks, I wouldn't leave the office until 9, sometimes 10 p.m. The parking garage was underground, poorly lit, echoey, and mostly empty by the time I got to it. But that's when I met Jake. He worked in IT, mid 30s, quiet, respectful, the kind of guy who always wore the same navy blue hoodie and seemed to know how everything worked. One night, I guess he noticed me hesitating by the elevator. He smiled and said, "Hey, it's late. Want me to walk you to your car? It's no problem. I'm heading that way anyway." I remember being surprised, but relieved. He didn't come off as creepy, just kind. And honestly, it felt good knowing someone was looking out for me. I started calling him my work big brother. That became our thing. Every night, same time, same elevator ride, Jake would walk me to my car, wave goodnight, and disappear into the dark. I thought I was lucky, but now looking back, I realize that was the first move in a game I didn't even know I was playing. At first, I thought Jake was just nice. He'd bring me coffee in the mornings, always with the exact amount of cream and sugar I liked. I never told him my order. He just guessed. He started showing up at the elevator just as I was leaving, even when I stayed late without telling anyone. He'd laugh it off. We're both night owls, huh? He remembered little things I said offhand, comments about my dog's vet visit or my mom coming into town. It was flattering, but also strange. Even my close friends didn't remember those things. One time, I switched up my lunch routine and went out early. Jake messaged me, "Everything okay? I noticed you weren't at your desk at the usual time." I laughed at the time. Said something like, "Didn't know you were keeping tabs on me." And he just replied with a winking emoji. "Someone's got to look out for you." I told myself it was harmless, that he was just a good guy in a lonely job. But in the back of my mind, something felt off. It wasn't anything he did, really. It was just the way he was always there, always knowing, always watching. I don't know exactly when the feeling started, but it was subtle at first. Tiny things that made me pause, then shake it off. Like the front porch light being on when I swore I'd left it off, or my garbage bins being moved closer to the curb. Even though trash day wasn't until Friday, I'd tell myself I was imagining it, that maybe the wind had knocked something over, or a neighbor had dragged them by mistake. But that explanation started feeling thin, especially when I came home one night and noticed the latch on my back gate swinging open. I never used that gate. I hadn't even touched it in months. Still, I didn't want to panic. I didn't want to sound crazy. I'd call a friend, vent about how paranoid I was feeling, and they'd reassure me, "You're just tired. It's all in your head. Try to sleep." But sleep became the hardest thing. I started waking up in the middle of the night, not from noise, but from this weird sinking feeling, like someone was watching me through the window. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was just present. One night, around 2 a.m., I heard what sounded like footsteps outside, slow, deliberate, moving across the gravel path beside my bedroom. I sat up, heart racing, and reached for my phone. But by the time I built up the courage to check, there was nothing there. No one in the yard, no sound at all. The next morning, I found the side gate unlocked again. That's when I started double checking everything. Every window, every door. I even started leaving my porch light on all night just in case. Still, the unease didn't go away. Then something happened that I couldn't brush off. I got home from work, went to grab the mail, and found one of my letters torn open. It was a bill. Nothing important, but the envelope was ripped not neatly, like someone opening it with a letter opener. It was jagged, like someone opened it in a hurry. My stomach dropped. He always got home after me. That meant someone would have had to come during the day. While I was at work, while I was with Jake, that night, I didn't sleep at all. I kept every light on in the house. My heart wouldn't slow down, and my brain kept looping the same thought over and over. Someone is watching me. I started wondering, was it just random? Some neighborhood creep? Or was it someone closer? Someone who knew my schedule. Someone who always knew when I was home and when I wasn't. The next morning at work, I was exhausted. I hadn't slept properly in days. Between the strange things happening at home and my constant anxiety, I was running on caffeine and nerves. I kept checking my phone, kept glancing over my shoulder. I was jumpy, wired, like prey in an open field, but everything at the office felt normal. Routine. Jake was out sick that day, the first time he'd missed work in months. That fact alone should have eased my nerves, but for some reason, it didn't. If anything, I felt even more on edge, like something was waiting to happen. Around 2 p.m., my supervisor stopped by. She said Jake had an ongoing project that needed a few files pulled from his computer. Since I sat near him and had access to the team server, she asked if I could log in from his desk. I agreed without thinking much of it. Jake's desk was weirdly tidy, not just neat, sterile. Everything was perfectly aligned. Pens lined up, notepads stacked precisely. Even the screen wipes were arranged like they belonged in a hotel drawer. I sat down and opened his laptop. While the files loaded, I noticed the top right drawer was slightly open. I tugged it gently to close it, but it wouldn't budge. Something inside was blocking it. Curiosity got the better of me. I pulled harder, and the drawer popped open suddenly, sending a folder spilling out across the desk. That's when everything changed. The first thing I saw was a photo of my front door. At night, from the sidewalk. It wasn't a Google Street View shot. It was taken recently. I could tell because my porch light was burnt out in the image, and that had only happened the week before. I froze, my fingers trembling as I picked up the next item. A printed screenshot of my Facebook page. Photos of me, my family, my dog, all labeled with handwritten notes. Mom visits twice month. David ap tre, nia illiu, tre divame. Beneath that was a small spiral notebook. Inside were pages of notes, written in tight, all capital letters. My name circled over and over. Dates, times, locations. Left house at 8, 3 m, wore gray coat. Arrived at work 9, 12, parked 3rd row, 5th spot. My vision blurred as I flipped through entry after entry. He had documented everything. What I wore, what I ate for lunch, when I got home, how long I stayed inside before turning off my living room light. He knew my entire routine. Then I found a map, a printed layout of my neighborhood with my house circled in red marker. Lines were drawn from various spots on the street with times next to them. Watched from 7:42 to 8:17. Motion lights on at 9, 6 p.m. There was even a sketch of my backyard with arrows pointing to my windows and a box at the bottom labeled blind spot, no camera coverage. I couldn't breathe. My heart was thudding so loudly I thought someone might hear it echoing in the office. I looked around, no one noticed me. Everyone was still typing, laughing, working. I was sitting in a war zone and no one could see the bombs. I kept digging, hoping I was imagining things, hoping there would be some explanation, some proof that this was just coincidence. But then I saw it, a file folder, plain, manila, labeled in black marker, Sarah, Phase 2. My blood ran cold. I opened it slowly. Inside were typed documents, almost like a script, lists of actions. Begin casual physical contact, brush hand at elevator. Mention shared interests, music, hiking, books. Ask to walk her dog. One note read, wait for trust to solidify before asking to enter home. Another said, Once inside, assess for security vulnerabilities. I felt like I was falling through the floor. This wasn't just obsession, this was planning. He had a process, a timeline, he had stages, he had intent. I didn't realize I was crying until I saw the tear hit the folder. It landed right on my name, printed in bold at the top of a surveillance log. Target, Sarah. I backed away from the desk. I think I mumbled something, told my manager I felt sick. I don't even remember walking to HR. I just remember sitting in a chair with my hands shaking, saying over and over, I found something. Something's wrong. He's watching me. Everything moved fast. After that, security was called. So, were the police? I handed over everything I'd touched. They sealed Jake's desk and took the folder. They didn't even ask questions, just looked at the photos and nodded grimly. I remember one of the officers pulling me aside and saying, You did the right thing. We don't think he was just watching you anymore. We think he was preparing for something else. And that's when it hit me. All the things I had brushed off, the open gates, the shifted trash bins, the torn mail, it wasn't random. It wasn't my imagination. It was him, the man I trusted, the man who walked me to my car every night, the man I had laughed with alone in empty hallways. He had been planning this for months. And if he hadn't called in sick that day, I don't know what might have happened next. I really don't. Before I continue, if you've ever felt unsafe at work or if a coworker gave you strange vibes, pause and listen closely, because what happened next could happen to anyone. That same evening, detectives came to the office. They asked me everything from when I met Jake to the night I started feeling watched. They already had the folder and evidence. And apparently, this wasn't the first time Jake had been noticed. There had been complaints, whispers, other women at different companies he worked for, but nothing had ever stuck. Nothing concrete until now. They searched his apartment the next morning. I waited by my phone the entire day, barely able to breathe. When the call finally came, the officer's voice was quiet, measured. He said, We found surveillance equipment, notes, timelines, multiple folders, not just yours, multiple folders. I wasn't the only one. There were camera logs with timestamps matching my house from weeks ago, a notebook with entries that tracked not just me, but my family, my neighbors, my dog's walking route. He had even printed out an Amazon receipt mine for pepper spray. It had the order date circled in red. He knew I was starting to feel afraid, and he was watching how I responded. Jake was arrested, charged with multiple counts of stalking, harassment, and unlawful surveillance. They confiscated his devices, hard drives, backup phones, even a hidden camera pen. I didn't even know those existed, but he had one. And I had no idea how long he'd been recording me. I was granted a restraining order. The police escorted me home that night. They stayed outside while I changed every lock on every door. I installed motion lights, cameras, alarms, anything I could, but I still didn't sleep. Even though he was in custody, I kept thinking he might find a way back in. Not just into my house, into my life, into my head. It's been 6 months. I moved. I changed jobs. I deleted old social accounts. I stopped using the same route to drive home. I never park in the same place twice. Therapy helped. But healing is slow when the fear was planted so deep. And the worst part is I trusted him. I trusted his kindness, his concern, his stupid coffee orders and half jokes and fake brotherly protectiveness. And now I know that was the mask, the performance. So if you're watching this and something feels familiar, even just a little, please hear me. Trust your gut. If someone knows too much about your routine, if they always seem to show up when you do, if you start feeling like you're being watched but can't explain why, don't ignore it. It is better to be wrong and safe than right and in danger. I wish I'd spoken up sooner. I wish I'd paid attention to those little red flags instead of brushing them off as nothing. I wish someone had told me what I'm telling you now. Creeps don't look like villains. They look like coworkers, like nice guys, like someone offering to walk you to your car, If you've ever felt like someone was watching you, or if a coworker ever made you uncomfortable, even in a small way, drop your story in the comments. You're not alone. And if you want more true workplace horror stories like this one's that reveal the real dangers hiding behind everyday routines, subscribe now. New stories drop every Tuesday and Friday. Until then, stay safe, trust your instincts, and never, ever ignore the feeling that something isn't right.